Hello there, and welcome back to another video. This week we're going to be doing episode 3 of my fandom series, and I'm going to be covering Harry Potter. So my fandom series, if you don't know, is a series that I've been doing where I'm going to dedicate each episode to a particular series, show, anime, manga, that kind of thing that has really impacted me in my life, that I've indulged in for many years, sort of thing, something that I always go back to. And we started off a couple of weeks ago with the first episode being Dragon Ball Z, the second episode was Naruto, and now the third episode we're going to be talking about Harry Potter. So just a little bit about the painting. I'm painting this on my iPad Pro 10.5 inch on the app Art Studio Pro. These first couple clips are in vertical because when I first started using my iPad, I got kind of comfortable using it in a vertical because when I've had iPads in the past, I've always used them vertical. But then when I figured out that I was going to be filming this, I was like, wait a minute, I should probably rotate this. And it wasn't actually that hard to adjust to working with it in landscape. And by this point in the scheduling process, I'm already in the landscape format. But yeah, so Harry Potter, I was a little bit younger when Harry Potter was first coming out. Like, my older brother was the ideal age, the ideal target market for the books when they were first coming out, but I'd already seen up until the 5th film when I first started reading. I vividly remember I would have been like 6 years old. My parents and my brother were watching Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone. They were watching Philosopher's Stone on the telly, and I was terrified of it. Like, there was the scene with Voldemort and the unicorn in the Forbidden Forest, and just the Forbidden Forest in general, and Quirrell. Like, it was just so scary to me. I was like so young, and so I didn't actually watch them. And I also remember that the third one with the werewolf, that one was also particularly scary for me when it first came out. But we had the Chamber of Secrets, we had that in VHR. So that one, because we had the VHR for it, I actually ended up watching it a lot. But I always wanted to skip all the basilisk scenes because, again, they scared me, and all the Parseltongue scenes as well. So, but I really liked Harry Potter, the films, growing up. But yeah, it was around when Order of the Phoenix had been released, but before Half-Blood Prince had released. By this point, all the books had come out, but I started reading, I remember, these books because when I was younger, as hard as it might seem to believe right now, I wasn't actually all that fond of reading. I would always try to avoid reading for school. I'd never found a book I actually enjoyed. I think the first ever book that I enjoyed reading was The Giver in English class when I was 11 maybe. But so I was also 11, but after that, and I got grounded. My marks were really low in school, so my parents confiscated my monitor, so I couldn't plug in the computer or anything. And yeah, I was very bored. So what had happened before was that I was supposed to do a book report like the previous year in school, and I chose to do it on Harry Potter because I'd seen the films, even though they particularly said don't do it on a book just to do it on the film. But I said, you know what, I promise I'm going to read it. I didn't read it, but my backpack had gotten wet, so the book of the Philosopher's Stone ended up getting sort of warped, and the library didn't let me return it. I had to pay for it and keep it. So because I had gotten grounded and I had this book, I was like, I'm just gonna read it. I have nothing else to do with my time. I wasn't too into drawing at that point, because these days, if I don't have any technology, I probably just live in my sketchbook. But yeah, so I had the Philosopher's Stone and I just started reading it, and I got hooked, and it took me about 3 weeks to get through all 7 novels, and I loved it. And then by the time that the 6th and the 7th and the 8th films came out, I'd already read the books, and I was already in team the books were better by that point. But yeah, after I read Harry Potter, I started reading other books like the Ugly series by Scott Westerfeld and a couple other sort of things, like just teeny kind of novels, but in the Hunger Games eventually. But it was Harry Potter that kind of got me into reading in the first place, and I think that's kind of typical person my age. Their introduction to recreational reading is Harry Potter. But yeah, that's how I found it. But I sort of just kind of let Harry Potter fade away from my mind between ages, I don't know, 12 and probably until I was like 16 or something like that. I really liked it, really enjoyed it. I rewatched the films every now and then, and I kept following it, but I didn't really reread the books ever. But then my friend who writes fanfiction, and I mentioned her in the Naruto episode, she goes by DarkPetal16, she posted Harry Potter fanfic, and by that point I had read like 3 or 4 of her Naruto stories, and I really trusted her as an author, so I was like, alright, I really like her as an author, I've read her Naruto stories to death, so let's give this other story that she's updating a chance. And I got so into this story, and I'll link it in the description. It's called Moratorium, and I've done fan art for it before, even on this channel. I did not too long ago an illustration of her character Moratorium from this story, and it's just, I really liked it. And then I kind of started remembering all these things that I really liked about Harry Potter. And then there was also this thing where on fanfiction.net, the biggest sort of category for anime fanfiction is Naruto, but the biggest category overall on the entire website is Harry Potter fanfiction. So Naruto fanfiction had around 300,000 stories, while Harry Potter had around 700,000 stories to it. So I was just, alright, need to get back into this. So I started, first step was asking my friend DarkPetal16 for some recommendations, and she gave me like 6 stories, and I read them all in like a week, and I loved them, and then I started looking for more, and it's just been another one of those always going back to read Harry Potter stories. So a couple of the things that I really like about Harry Potter is the world, obviously, that's like the number one point. Like, the characters can be pretty cool, the plot's also pretty cool, but I mean, I feel the plot sort of like his standard hero's journey sometimes a little bit, like, has a couple nuances, but Harry as a character is the type of character where he has his traits and he has his like moments, but he's a lot more of a reactive character than a proactive character, and he kind of has that sort of malleability where you can, as a reader, put yourself in his shoes in a way, which I appreciate those types of characters from a storytelling perspective, but in terms of endearing myself to the characters, I much prefer the ones that have a lot stronger, more distinct personalities, hence Fred and George. Also, at this point, we're far enough in this illustration where I think the key differences that I put in each Fred and George are there. So I would like to challenge you in the comments section to try to pick out which one is Fred and which one is George. I'm going to, if you guess, I will reply if you are right or wrong, because I did distinctly draw them with a Fred and with a George in mind. And I'd like to see, and if you could give a reason as to which one's which, I'd also be very interested to hear. So there is a Fred and there is a George, as per my understanding. I'm curious if you'll know, but alright. So I really like characters that have very distinct personalities, and Harry isn't so much that. And also Hermione. In the books, I like her better in the books than in the films, because in the films she seems way too Mary Sue. And also Ron, he's, I don't know, it's just the characters, I like them a lot, don't get me wrong. Like, this series is literally the top of the top in terms of writing and connection and world building and all that, but the thing is that typically I'm most attracted to characters within series, but Harry Potter is not the case with that. It's more the world and the ideas and the themes and the fantasy and the possibilities. And so my favourite thing about Harry Potter is just how much detail it gave you, but how much detail it didn't give you. Like, so many actual things about the ministry, so many actual things about other professions, so many actual things about, like, only now, years and years and years after the series has ended, are we starting to learn more about the greater wizarding world, like, outside of the UK and all that. And so, and even then we're starting to learn more of the past and what this all took place in the 90s, right? So what would it be like in the 2000s, in the 2010s, and we're almost going on to the 2020s? Like, how would, it's just, I don't know, I feel like it's just a place where your creativity can just explode. And again, like with Naruto, it's just the fan fiction that really awakened my love for this series. And yeah, I just feel very connected because there's so much area to build upon, I say. And I feel like it's also very topical, you know, because I feel like it's a very digestible way to get into sort of like race issues and class issues and discrimination and kind of not liking people for being too different. So we have people like Luna, who is a seer and she's a little bit weird, but in a perfectly kind and gentle way, and yet she's still bullied. Or even Hermione, who's just too smart for some people and so she gets bullied. Or Harry, who's always misunderstood in what he does, and the public is so quick. And like this commentary on celebrity, I think, is extremely relevant to now, more so than it was in the 90s and in the 2000s, because now in this era of social media, everyone is so quick to like jump on the bandwagon of a content creator or even like a celebrity or something like that, but then turn on them at the drop of a hat. And it sort of explored that within the years in Harry Potter. Like in his first year he was famous, but then in his second year he was the heir of Slytherin, and then in his third year he was being chased by a madman, and his fourth year he was a pariah to most of the school for stealing the championship and all these kinds of things. It's just, I don't know, I feel like that commentary on celebrity is like super important. So my favourite book out of all of them is Goblet of Fire. My favourite film out of all of them is Half-Blood Prince. My favourite character is Fred. My secondary favourite characters, like that, Fred and George are sort of main characters, but the character that I kind of like the most would be Bill Weasley. I don't know, I feel a connection to the older, like Bill and Charlie. I think that they're pretty cool because, again, we got details on them, but not too many details, so we can also make our own minds on them. My favourite villain is Snape. I consider him a villain. His reasons, but I don't know, I feel like he's the kind of anti-villain where you go back and forth. I think Voldemort is also a really good villain, and Bellatrix, I also hate her, and Umbridge, you gotta love to hate Umbridge. It's just like, I hated reading about her, I hated watching her, but just in terms of storytelling, I think it's kind of brilliant. I think Lucius Malfoy is kind of useless. I think Draco, I wish they would have done a little bit more for his redemption, I really do. But again, that's where the fan fiction comes in. What else? I really think that the series that it is, like, not a single child in the world doesn't know. Well, there are obviously circumstances, but like most everyone knows who Harry Potter is, what Harry Potter is, and like it's become sort of this cultural phenomenon, like even Quidditch and the houses, which house you're in and all that stuff. Speaking of houses, Pottermore put me in Gryffindor, but I very much see myself as a Ravenclaw, thanks. Comment down below which house you think you are, or maybe which house you were sorted in, kind of. But yeah, I think it's just such a huge thing. It's impossible not to know about it if you're even slightly up to date to modern media and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of something in Harry Potter for absolutely everyone to love, and it's just so digestible, the books. It's like, I was able to plow through them straight on as someone who didn't really have much experience reading. So I used to read fairly slow, because I'd never really practiced reading, and English isn't my first language, and I read them all in English. So I had to, like, a lot of the times, at that point I was still sounding out my words to try to figure out what they are. Like, it's got, when you're a kind of proficient reader, you don't really see the words as their individual letters. You just sort of get a general sense of what the word is because you've just read it so many times. Your brain immediately sees the words and it knows it's that word, and then it keeps reading. But at that point I wasn't that proficient yet, but I still like zoomed straight past all the books, and it was because it was that 1 month of reading these books that gave me the reputation of being a bookworm for the rest of my time at that school, because I was always reading my books in class and not paying attention to my classes. Kids, you should pay attention to your classes, don't do as I did. But yeah, it was just it was so funny that it got me that bookworm reputation when I'd never even touched a book for fun until then. And it's just, that's sort of the amazing quality to the wizarding world, I think. And I didn't get my Hogwarts Letter in the mail. I was very sad when I was 11 I didn't get it, even though I'd only seen the films at that point. But still waiting. You know, maybe they probably just skipped me because my last name starts with a W and they just got so many Weasley grandkids. Like third, like next generation Weasleys or something. I don't know. Next generation Weasleys or something. Now, probably just next generation Weasleys considering my age. But anyway, let me know what you think about the painting, about my opinions on Harry Potter, what you think on Harry Potter. Remember to check the descriptions for my fanfiction recommendations in regards to Harry Potter. I do put in parentheses sort of a rough idea of what kind of story it is, any warnings you might need before approaching them. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoy the way this fandom series is progressing. I am trying to change up what I'm posting, like a variety of different things, because if it were up to me, I'd be just doing straight up fandom videos, because I could talk about what I love for ages. But I am trying to diversify a little bit, because I also do have a lot of ideas, and I have been getting suggestions on what kinds of videos I can do. And again, if you'd like to see any sort of different videos to my fandom series and the stuff that I've posted, just leave a comment down in the comment section, and I'll be adding your suggestion to my video idea lists, which I will be which I do refer to very actively. And yeah, my experience with the iPad Pro has been pretty good so far. It's an adjustment period to get used to painting if you've been painting in Photoshop for 9 years, but I've been having fun. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and I'll see you all next week.